It's adventure time. Come on, grab your friends, because this was one of, if not the most, popular cartoon on Cartoon Network during the 2010s. Following the adventures and misadventures of a human boy and his shape-shifting dog, Adventure Time gave us hundreds of lovable characters who peppered the entire moral compass. From legendary heroes to the literal embodiment of death itself, we have a lot to cover. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is Adventure Time Good to Evil. But first, today's video is brought to you by our sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives where millions come together to take the next step in their creative journey. Believe it or not, there are actually a number of technical skills that go into running a YouTube channel. Video editing, graphic design, video production, and more. If you're interested in starting a channel yourself, Skillshare is a great place to learn from the ground up. We use Adobe Premiere for Wicked Binge constantly, and Skillshare has a ton of video editing classes. Skillshare is curated for learning, so there are no ads. And it's affordable. With an annual subscription, it's less than $10 a month. The first 1,000 people to use the link in our description will get a free trial for Skillshare Premium membership so they can explore their creativity. The class, Video on a Budget, Prepare for Your Shoot Without Breaking the Bank by Christopher Rhodes, is a great intro to video production. If you join, you can try one of Skillshare's new live classes and connect with popular teachers while working alongside other members. We're working really hard to make 2021 a big year for Wicked Binge, as well as some of the new channels that we have in the works. And I hope that everyone else who has a creative idea gets the opportunity to kick off their own projects in 2021 as well. Skillshare is a great community that can help inspire your own creativity, so click the link below to join today. Thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring us today. Please use the link in the description to sign up for Skillshare because it supports them and us. Now let's get back to the video. Due to the insane amount of characters we had to go through for this list, we had to make a few rules. Firstly, no characters exclusively from the comics or video games. If they didn't appear in the show first, they don't count. Secondly, none of the gender-bent Fiona and Cake characters are on the list either, since they are fictional characters within the universe. Finally, characters who exclusively appear within the new show Distant Lands are excluded. That said, events from Distant Lands will be considered, but no exclusive characters due to the fact that Distant Lands is still running. As usual, we'll be starting with our most wholesome characters and moving down into the depths of the Nightosphere. To begin, these characters are the good. The gold medal of good might be a surprise for some, but it goes to the Wishmaster, Prismo. Prismo resides in the time room at the center of the multiverse and has the ability to grant almost any wish asked upon him. He might not seem like the obvious choice for top contender, but throughout his many appearances, it is shown that he is one of the most benevolent creatures in the multiverse. Prismo grants Finn the wish that creates the farm world timeline since the Lich didn't exist, and becomes good friends with Jake. He's even willing to give up his life for his friends, allowing Finn and Jake to kill him by waking him up, which allows them to go to the Citadel and find Finn's real dad. Prismo does eventually come back through some time travel shenanigans, and even though he couldn't bring back Margie's or Betty with all his power, he no doubt takes our gold medal. Moving on, the silver medal of good goes to Minerva Campbell, Finn's mother from the distant Hub Island. She was a citizen of Hub Island known as a helper or doctor. She was on the front lines during the disastrous violent cataclysm, which was the disease accidentally created by Dr. Gross. When all the other helpers started to die due to the virus, she decided to upload her consciousness into hundreds of robots that take her place as helpers around the island. The only reason she doesn't take our top spot is because she is shown to be controlling when it comes to her son Finn and trying to stop him from going back to Ooh. She eventually relents and even brings the other humans to Ooh during the finale. However, her son Finn takes our bronze medal of good. This may surprise some that he doesn't take the top spot. Finn is a well-known adventurer and hero in the land of U, who has done a multitude of heroic things during his time there. He's saved Princess Bubblegum and other princesses multiple times, no matter how he feels about the princesses themselves. He is kind, brave, and selfless, willing to put himself in harm's way, no matter what the outcome may be. He was thought to be the last human in U for the longest time, and got soul-searchy whenever he thought about it. He was also willing to sacrifice himself to the Oozers during the events of James II. But Finn is not all fun and games. He also has a bit of a dark side, wanting revenge on his father in Wake Up. However, most of the time he is almost incapable of doing evil actions, hence his bronze medal of good. Finn is truly a good, noble, and righteous hero. Everyone's good friend, BMO, gets the 4th place spot on our good list. BMO is the living video game / computer system that lives alongside Finn and Jake in the tree fort and is often said to do weird stuff when no one is around, such as talking to their reflection that they named Football, or giving voices to animals or objects while they investigate things. While they say they have no emotions, they are also shown to get angry and very protective, claiming that they would kill someone if they hurt Finn, and even refusing to let the two enter the video game world when they wanted to during Guardians of Sunshine. BMO definitely deserves this spot right outside the top 3 on our list. Next up are Joshua and Margaret. Joshua and Margaret are the biological parents of Jermaine and the adoptive parents of Finn and Jake. They don't appear very often outside of flashbacks, but from what we've seen, not only do they seem to be good parents, but they were paranormal investigators and dedicated themselves to helping people, even going as far as to adopt an abandoned baby they find in the woods. Up next is Sweet Pea. A bit of a weird one to rank because he is the reborn version of the Lich raised by Tree Trunks and Mr. Pig. Sweet Pea has been shown to struggle with the Lich side of himself in episodes like Gold Stars, but most of the time he is shown to be a sweet child who loves his parents and other people, so much so that he can be manipulated by evil people like King of U in Toronto. Towards the end of the series, he pretty much destroys his Lich side, and when we flash forward into the future, he is a giant and seems to be a heroic adventurer, cementing his place here. While kinda weird, Banana Man does rank in our next spot. Banana Man doesn't appear often in the show, but when he does, he is quite often shown as a spacefarer and adventurer who built his own rocket ship to leave U. Banana Man seems to be good friends with Finn and Jake, going as far as to help them fix their truck, Hot Daniel, in exchange for just hanging out. He doesn't have any major evil intentions, even saving Jake from the vacuum of space when he found him floating out there. Banana Man even managed to save the Candy Kingdom from a lizard replica of Princess Bubblegum, and while he did get arrested for indecent exposure, it was for the good of the Candy Kingdom. Plus, who could stay mad at someone voiced by Weird Al? Legendary hero Billy is up next. Billy is a legend in the land of U and is a major heroic influence of Finn's. Billy was once the legendary warrior who put down the Lich into the Amber Prison within the Candy Kingdom and saved princesses much like Finn and Jake do now. When Billy got older, he started to believe that defeating evil was futile since new evil would eventually rise. He stopped fighting evil and became a hermit. It wasn't until Finn and Jake convinced him that he started to fight evil again. And while that did lead to his death at the hands of the Lich, he died a hero. The royal captain, Root Beer Guy, earns the next spot. Root Beer Guy, later known as Dirt Beer Guy, appears in the eponymous episode late in season 5 and became a series regular soon after. Root Beer Guy was the captain of the Banana Guards and tried to lead them into a much better state than they were in prior. His first appearance shows him trying to save Princess Bubblegum, who he thought was kidnapped by Finn and Jake. And while this was a test for the Banana Guards, this lands him the job of captain. He easily becomes one of the most heroic characters in the show, even sacrificing himself in a heroic last deed. He does come back as a zombie known as Dirt Beer Guy and eventually starts to run the Candy Tavern. And while he doesn't know his own strength, he does try his best to get back with cherry cream soda. Next is Kara Susan Strong, the first human we saw that wasn't Finn. Kara, like Finn and other humans, is from Hub Island outside of U and was a seeker, someone specifically enhanced to hunt down and capture people trying to leave the island. Susan had a cybernetic implant in her head that forced her to do whatever she was told to do from someone like Dr. Gross, such as destroying her best friend's boat. Now, these actions were done without her input since she had the implant in her head. Later on, she becomes part of the mutant tribe of humans with gills. Susan eventually came to the surface thanks to the help of Finn and Jake and had to get used to surface life again, even having to relearn English. Susan became fast friends with Finn and had him help her defeat the Lub-Glubs, shadow creatures that took over where the tribe used to live. Eventually, she finds out about her past identity and helps Finn go to Hub Island. Eventually, she reunites with her friend Frida and starts to adventure alongside her. She's a good friend that only gets taken down a few pegs thanks to trying to eat multiple candy people. Flying into our next spot comes Lady Rainicorn. Lady Rainicorn, or Lady as she is more regularly known, is one of the mysterious Rainicorn species from the Crystal Dimension and the royal steed of Princess Bubblegum, not to mention being the wife of Jake. Lady is a loyal person and loving mother, protecting and helping her friends and family, even going as far as beating up her ex-boyfriend Lee for her son. Lady even tries her best to make Jake happy by becoming friends with Finn during My Two Favorite People. Lady only lands here due to not having very many episodes where she leans either way, landing in the lower end of our good spectrum. Half-baked but fully lovable, Cinnamon Bun is next on our list. Cinnamon Bun was a bit of a weird one to rank since he technically appears in two completely different states throughout the show. For most of the show, he was in a quote-unquote half-baked state, where he was a clumsy and dim-witted candy person who was subject to many of Princess Bubblegum's experiments, leading him to find her as an evil person. He does get hit by a fire blast and becomes fully baked, where he becomes a stoic and courageous knight in the Fire Kingdom. While he used to be quick to anger, he becomes a loyal fighter for Flame Princess. He even saves Finn during the Elements event, so he earns his spot here. Next up is Nepter, which stands for Never-Ending Pie-Throwing Robot. Nepter was a robot created by Finn to prank Jake by throwing pies at him. Nepter came to life thanks to a stray lightning bolt and became like a son to Finn for a while. He did eventually get hit by one of Ice King's bolts, which turned him slightly evil, giving him urges to do evil things. He did become Finn's pranking companion and a permanent member of the Tree Fort, even trying to befriend Bimo only to be rejected by the other robots. Stealthily landing in our next spot is Huntress Wizard. Huntress Wizard is one of those background characters who started to become a common recurring character towards the back half of the series. Huntress Wizard is shown to be a laid-back and sarcastic person and a potential love interest for Finn. She has a fear of going soft, so much so that she won't even think about dating Finn because of this fear despite her obvious feelings for him. She will even put herself in the way of danger for Finn and will defend Candy Castle from Fern and Gumball. She is truly an exceptional beast. But that wraps up our good area. We now move into the neutral territory. This is the gray area. You may be surprised that he ranks this low, but first up in the gray is Jake the dog. Jake is one of the most interesting cases to rank on this list for a few reasons. Jake may be an adventurer and overall good person like Finn, but there's more beneath the surface with him. Jake was once a criminal prior to his adventuring life with Finn, part of a group alongside other criminals, and his criminal tendencies get so bad that he sometimes steals things without noticing and tends to lie quite often. He even pretended to be a conductor and murder people, and once talked about punching angels. However, it's not all bad with Jake. Jake is a loving father and older brother, and is not one to shy away from an adventure with his best friend and brother, Finn, willing to put his life on the line not only for his friends and family, but for the entire land of U. He may land in the gray area, but just barely. We had a premonition that the cosmic owl would rank here. Like the name implies, he is a cosmic entity that looks similar to an owl, often appearing in the dreams of people who are about to die. He doesn't appear very often, but when he does, it tends to mean something bad is going to happen to someone. For example, he prophesies the breakup of Finn and Flame Princess, and straight up calls Ice King a sociopath. He's also prophesied to completely obliterate the creatures known as Y-wolves by eating them. And he is also shown to be good friends with Prismo, and seems to be a sort of coward, based on him running away when talks about killing a cosmic entity came up. But it's not like most people wouldn't run away at that point. But Mr. Pig ranks in our next spot. Mr. Pig is the current husband of Tree Trunks and the adopted father of Sweet Pea. He is an example of someone who was forced to do things against his moral compass, since he had to eat the people captured by Jaybird. Although later he called it a job for money, so it's hard to say which is the truth. He does help Tree Trunks find her missing apples that were being stolen by birds, and tries his best to raise Sweet Pea by the best standards he could muster with Tree Trunks. He may have been a criminal at one point, but he's certainly not the worst. Check please, because Shelby comes in next. Shelby is the worm that lives inside Jake's Viola, and seems to be good friends with both Finn and Jake. Shelby is always shown to be very smart and often the smartest character in any given room. However, his hubris hinders him habitually, and due to his perceived intelligence, he often gives out false information that people take at face value. His friendship also wavers at times, such as when he wished for a pony for his girlfriend instead of a passage to the Citadel for Finn and Jake, which eventually led them down the path of accidentally killing Prismo. Shelby isn't a bad person most of the time, he's just a smart aleck and a bit too cocky. The most entitled character of the show, Lumpy Space Princess, comes into our next spot. LSP is very obviously the princess of the dimension known as Lumpy Space, and is often shown to be a bratty, attention-seeking teenager. She always tries to be the center of attention, complaining about carrying too small rocks in Gotcha, or interrupting Finn to talk about her boyfriend during the events of The Creeps. She even intends to trash Tree Trunk's wedding since she thinks every party is for her. However, there are a couple saving graces for the princess. Firstly, during the events of Elements, it's revealed that LSP is the fifth element compared to slime, ice, fire, and candy, and has the ability to divert things back to their true state. While this does lead to Gumbait and his family coming back, that is not her fault. The other saving grace is that all Lumpy Space people are shown to be rude and annoying, making this a genetics issue. Her crimes are not nearly as bad as some others, and she does intend to do good things most of the time, meaning she doesn't land in the bad or evil category. Villain turned fan favorite, next up is Marceline, the Vampire Queen. Marceline is a vampire and has lived for a very long time prior to the events of the series, even surviving the Mushroom War during her childhood. She has a really interesting lineage since she's half human and half demon thanks to being the daughter of Hossain Abadir. And then sometime prior to the series, she was turned into a vampire, and became the final vampire after slaying the court of vampires who turned her. Marceline was abandoned by her father, lost her mother, and thought she was abandoned by her, and even abandoned by Simon when he quote-unquote sacrificed himself for her. Her first appearance has her kick Finn and Jake out of their tree fort since she once owned it, and at one point even kicked them out of the cave they found so that she could live there. But as time goes on, she becomes a better person, especially towards Finn and Jake, who become good friends with her. Marceline isn't all bad though, as during the events of the show, she would have saved the tumultuous Glass Kingdom from a destructive dragon twice over. But from one queen to another, Flame Princess ranks next. Flame Princess comes from the Fire Kingdom, where all the residents are evil to some degree, and this is mostly the fault of the Flame King, who we'll talk about later. Flame Princess was locked up in a lamp for 14 years prior to the series until Jake convinces the Flame King to let her out so she could date Finn. She does get better, showing she is not naturally evil, and was only raised that way by her father. Yes, she does overthrow her father and becomes Neo Flame King, but as a ruler she instills a new style of ruling based on honesty. But that's only because throughout her entire life she was lied to, not only by her father but by people she perceived to be her friends, such as Princess Bubblegum and Finn. If she was truly evil, she would have tried to destroy the Candy Kingdom as suggested by her brother. But even with Princess Bubblegum's constant sneakiness, she doesn't start a war with them. She's not evil like her father tries to convince her of. From fire to ice, next up is Simon, Ice King. Simon starts off the series as your average princess kidnapping villain of the week and stays that way throughout the first few seasons. But as time went on and characters became more nuanced, Ice King was one of the first to get a more expansive backstory. We find out that he used to be a scientist prior to the Mushroom War and found a very special crown that would slowly turn the user crazy. Simon tried to stray from using the crown as much as possible, especially after his fiancée Betty disappeared due to time shenanigans, leading Simon to believe she ran away because of him and the crown. But even after his usage of the crown turned him slightly crazy, he was still shown to be a loving and caring individual, as he found and saved the young Marceline, also giving her the teddy she would cherish for years to come. He even sacrificed himself and his sanity to save Marceline, and self-sacrifice definitely nets points. Where he falls short, however, is when the crown is in play, kidnapping princesses to force them to be his wife, creating Princess Monster Wife out of stolen pieces of princesses, tricking people, forcing Finn and Jake to become statuesque in the episode Still, or spying on Finn and Jake as the creepy horse in the eyes. He may not be extinction level or anything of that nature, but he is definitely deserving of this side of the gray area. But next, in a perhaps unacceptable ranking, is the Earl of Lemongrab, more commonly known as Lemongrab. For the purposes of our list, we're ranking all three Lemongrabs as one creature. The current Lemongrab is known as Lemongrab 3, but he comes from the combined pieces of Lemongrabs 1 and 2, but we will just refer to them as Lemongrab. Lemongrab has shifted throughout the series, and his very recognizable Justin Roiland voice has pierced Adventure Time since his inception. His very first appearance is him usurping the throne from his mother, Princess Bubblegum, when she became 13 in the episode Too Young. Lemongrab was deemed the first of Princess Bubblegum's experiments to go wrong, even though we haven't brought up her family yet. And after being given 3 candy people to govern, he turns Lemongrab into a totalitarian city-state. Lemongrab also has no impulse control, as the first Lemongrab decided to eat the second Lemongrab when he got out of line. When the two are combined into the third Lemongrab, he becomes a much less chaotic entity since he inherited traits of both halves. Lemongrab goes on an introspective journey during his journey up the mountain of Matthew, and even sides with his mother in the Gum War. He even deems a kiss from Lumpy Space Princess acceptable, a rare occurrence for the Earl. To think Lemongrab would rank lower than this is unacceptable. From created to creator, Princess Bubblegum is next. Princess Bubblegum is a perfect example of never judging a book by its cover. For the longest time, PB seemed like a perfect angel who needed to be saved every couple weeks. However, much like Ice King, as the show went on, we got to know more about her, and the further down this list she fell. Princess Bubblegum is a scientist and has created a long list of creatures, including the candy people she rules over. She once created 3 more gum people, her uncle, aunt, and cousin, who would then try and betray her. She would create Lemongrab, who's a bit crazy, and she would even accidentally create Candy Zombies twice. But not only does she put Candy life over others, such as putting the duties as princess over her relationship with Marceline, but she is shown to be willing to slay Flame Princess if need be. Now, we could touch on all the rumors the Veritas Brigade spreads about her, but we only have so much time. She's not all bad. She tries to warn Finn and Jake about the Lich when he was possessing Billy. She stopped Multilarva from destroying the Glass Kingdom and created the Gumball Guardians that protect the Candy Kingdom and its citizens. She may not be the best person, but she's at the very least a good princess. PB to PB, Peppermint Butler is next. Peppermint Butler is one of the weirdest characters to rank on this list because he's the most secretive character in the entire show. What we do know about Peppermint Butler is semi-incriminating, as he is a master occultist and seems to be good friends with Death. He's a vengeful little peppermint, turning Peacemaster's children into half-demons and killing random goblins. But he's an ever-diligent worker, and was able to tell when Princess Bubblegum was possessed by the Lich, showing his loyalty to her. He's also heavily prepared prepared, keeping a vampire hunting kit for if Marcelin goes feral. He does get turned into an infant peppermint thanks to Gumbald's dum-dum juice, but that doesn't change anything since he's shown reading a dark magic book in the finale. We know that the next episode of Distant Lands will focus on him, but as of writing this, it's not out, so the events of that will not be taken into account. Landing the loyal butler here. Next up with his ever-changing name is Magic Man. Magic Man was a normal Martian who dabbled in magic, whose life changed forever when Golb took his wife. Like all wizards, he was struck with magic, madness, and sadness, and while he helped create the Martian defense system, MARGLES, he started to commit multiple annoying atrocities on Mars, such as animating Martian shadows to attack their users or making all Martians bald. He was sent to Earth where he continued to be mostly an annoyance, such as turning Finn into a giant foot or turning a bird inside out. After some shenanigans via Betty Groff, he becomes Normal Man and tries to make amends, rescuing his brother's heads from space and also trying to save them from the tiny manticore. He eventually becomes King of Mars and tries to do the best for his people, but he ranks this low because he did summon Golb to Oo in a selfish attempt to save Margie's, and he's a general annoyance. He's also selfish, but in a much smaller way. Next up is Hossain Abadir. Hossain is the father of Marcelin and the ruler of the Nightosphere, Adventure Time's version of Hell. Hossain does take on many aspects of what we would consider Lucifer, but it's shown that he's mostly a good guy when not working. Episodes later in the series show that even though he was described as pure evil, this seems to be because of the Nightosphere amulet, as when Finn uses it in It Came From the Nightosphere, it's shown that the amulet turns the user into a devilish leader. Hossain may have eaten countless souls and his daughter's fries, but his consistent attempts to make it up to her stop him from dropping into the bad and evil category. But with that said, that wraps up the gray area. We now move into the bad and the evil. Starting out this category is Aunt Lolly. Lolly was created alongside Gumbald and Chiclet by Princess Bubblegum to be a family for her, but they quickly plan to betray her. Lolly works alongside Gumbald and Chiclet in trying to overthrow Bubblegum, and she does get tricked by Gumbald into eating the dum-dum juice, which would leave her trapped in the body of a candy person for thousands of years. Sure, she helps plan the Gum War and attempts to turn Princess Bubblegum into a candy person using the dum-dum juice, but she turns over a new leaf at the end of the series and stops Gumbald from double-crossing her niece, and even helps Bonnie fight Golb. She may not be the best person, but she does shift sides and stops an attempt on a princess's life. She may be bad, but she's not the worst in the series. The evil Flame King comes in next. Flame King is the previous ruler of the Flame Kingdom and killed his brother to do so. Flame King is just a legitimately bad person and an even worse father, having left his daughter to wander the wilderness of Oo in fear of her overthrowing him, and then locking her up in a lamp after that. He tried to gather an army to overthrow his daughter after she locked him up in the same lamp, but the plan fell short thanks to Bun Bun, and he became the Squirrel King. Flame King did forgive his daughter for locking him up, but offered no apology of his own. Even though he's a bad dad, he's nowhere near the worst in the series. The feline hitwoman, Meow, ranks in our next spot. She is a second-class assassin who was assigned to kill Wildberry Princess and tried to do so by hiding in a pie. She also tried to poison Jake with a poison that was designed specifically to kill dogs 50 times his size. Her whole goal is to kill not just a princess, which could cause serious problems, but she has no problems with leaving bodies around. The only reason she doesn't rank any lower is because she is required to do this for money, as shown when she becomes a bounty hunter. Finn's felonious father, Martin Mertens, lands in the next spot. Martin has the answer to a long-burning question about Finn, who his parents were. He has no memory of his son Finn, and has been wandering Oo and eventually the universe, continuing his scams that got him in the whole heap of trouble that caused Finn to end up in Oo. Martin would scam people trying to leave Hub Island by tipping off the Seekers and having them find the hiders. And this led to his legs getting broken and him meeting Minerva. His scams got him into a lot of trouble later on, as the people he scammed would come back and cause him to get attacked by an island guardian. He does a sort of self-sacrifice by destroying one of the Guardian's eyes with his laser, and Martin washed away. But that self-sacrifice does not stop the fact that he ended up in the Citadel, reserved for people who committed cruel cosmic crimes. What he did is unknown, but it can be assumed it's really bad. He also ends up tearing off Finn's arm by accident when Finn tries to hold on to his escaping ship. He tricks a group of gullible koala people and leaves one of them to be arrested. He eventually left with the Catalyst Comet after trying to reconcile with his son. We didn't drop him any lower because while his crimes may be cosmic level, we don't know exactly what they are, and he does try to change for the better in the end. Next up is Gunter. Gunter is by far the weirdest character to rank on our list because of his, or her, backstory as Orgalorg, the Breaker of Worlds. Gunter is Ice King's personal servant and a troublemaker who just loves to break bottles, even getting the demonic wishing eye to try and break all bottles in Ooh, even going as far as to try and break the head of a Gumball Guardian. Even though he tried to cause a lot of trouble, he seems to worship Ice King, as he stops when told by Ice King, and when he gets Ice King's crown, he becomes the mischievous Ice Thing. He only ranks this low because of his previous life as Orgalorg, who tried to rule the solar system by use of the Catalyst Comet. Now he's just a weird little Ice King lookalike and deserves this spot. Perhaps a surprise, but next is Tree Trunks. Tree Trunks is an unassuming tiny elephant and is seemingly a regular old farmer until you dig into her backstory. Tree Trunks is an ex-pirate captain who blew up her whole pirate ship when one of her ex-husbands tried to cause a mutiny, and we never saw any of her crew get off the ship, meaning she probably killed them. Stranded the aforementioned ex-husband on an island, and then became Kristijan, the Crystal Queen, the insane leader of the Crystal Dimension, who tried to kill Finn and Jake. She ranks lower than Gunter because she doesn't have an excuse for these actions being from a previous life. Even though technically, as Kristijan, she was driven mad with crystal power, which docks a few evil points. Half grass demon, half sword, Fern grows into our next spot. Fern is the result of two of Finn's swords forming together and creating one being. Fern has a lot of issues since he was shown to be very angry when he couldn't do a lot of things that Finn could do since he had all of Finn's memories. As the series went on, he grew more reckless and more frustrated, wrecking the tree fort, viciously killing multiple grass creatures, and even trying to replace Finn by trapping him in a dungeon. He stole Starchy's motorcycle and punched the grassy wizard as hard as he possibly could. All of this ends up with him being chopped to bits on accident by Finn and seeking revenge when Gumball recovers him. He becomes the Green Knight who teams up with Gumball during the Gum War and tries to kill Finn multiple times. It's not until Finn reminds him that they are one and the same and Fern slays the grass demon controlling him does he make up with his human half. This does end in his death, but Finn honors his final wish and plants him where the tree fort used to be. He is mostly misunderstood, which does help him in the end, and we can see why he's a fan favorite. Prim, proper, and powerful, Patience St. Pim is next. Patience is an apt description of her, as when she found out about the incoming power of the Lich, she freezes herself and waits at the bottom of the sea for hundreds of years. As soon as she escapes her icy prison, she tries to gather the new elementals and force them to come together using the Ice King's kidnapping skills and freezing Finn and Jake. She's also the sole reason for the elemental overload that causes the miniseries elements and all the problems that stem from it, such as the return of Gumball, Chicle, and Lolly. The elemental overload caused her to fall into a deep depression and fell back into an ice prison to not deal with any consequences, staying that way for another 1,000 years. We say good riddance. Magic, madness, and sadness, Betty Groff is next. She was Simon's fiancée during the time period of the Mushroom War, and due to some time shenanigans, ended up in Ooh in the present day. Betty took it upon herself to try and save Simon from the crown, and while these actions are noble, they come far too late to be useful to Ice King. She tried many things to save Simon from the crown, even taking all of Magic Magic Man's magic, madness and sadness upon herself to gain the power to try and do so. She went insane, doing everything from stealing his crown to infecting it with an evil AI to try and cure it. She even stole the Enchiridion and gems and even betrayed Finn, dropping him from the Cloud Kingdom. Not to mention she was the reason Golb was summoned to U and is directly responsible for all the problems it caused. When she reverted back to her original state, she did utilize her final moments to fuse with Golb and leave U, a very heroic self-sacrifice, which stops her from being any lower on the list. Cruel Cousin Chicle, commonly considered Crunchy the Cookie, is up next. Cousin Chicle, like Gumball and Lolly, was created by Princess Bubblegum to be family to her and tries to overthrow her alongside the rest of her family, excluding Nettie, by splashing her with the Dum Dum juice, only to be tricked by Gumball and become Crunchy the Cookie. Crunchy is just as much of a maniac as Chicle is, maybe more so, wanting to execute Starchy and even pushing the King of U into a fireplace, having gone mad with power. He does revert back to his original state thanks to LSP and tries to help Gumball create Gumbaldia to war against Princess Bubblegum. If it wasn't for an accidental spill of the Dum Dum juice on him, he may have been a much larger threat in the Gum War. They're gonna take one spot together. The King of U and Toronto are next. The King of U and Toronto are a criminal duo who focus on scamming large groups of people by pretending to be the rightful ruler of all of U and his pet dog. The King of U holds a cult-like sway over certain members of U and often uses them to siphon money. This helps him become the ruler of the Candy Kingdom. The two of them also use the most gullible person in the show, Sweet Pea, to steal money from candy people, which is just despicable. The King of U might be bad, but Toronto is probably worse. He was willing to murder Sweet Pea and burn down Tree Trunk's apple orchard, left the King of U for dead with as much treasure as he could carry, and even tried to trick Flame Princess into signing away the Flame Kingdom. They're con artists and by far one of the biggest threats in the show, so they cement their placement here, in 5th place of most evil. Moving on, we have the God of Chaos, Golb. Now, Golb is a malevolent entity who is directly related to the concept of chaos, shifting hordes of candy people into giant wraiths that attack everyone else. It has no problem taking people like Margie's and other Martians, digesting humans of all kinds including Betty, Simon, and Finn, and is shown to be even more powerful than Ice King's crown. If it wasn't for Betty, it would have caused much more damage. It is chaos incarnate, and has no problems with that. Our bronze medal of evil goes to Bad Dad Warren Ampersand. Warren is Jake's biological father and a shapeshifter from the depths of space. He was out of Jake's life for almost 30 years, only going to his son when he was old and weak. It turns out that Warren only wanted to interact with Jake so that he can absorb the dog's life force so he could be young again. It turns out that he's done that with almost every other one of his kids, killing them in the process. And then he threatened to do the same with his grandkids. It's only when Jake throws him into a black hole does that stop his plans of absorbing all of his descendants. He ranks lower than Golb because Warren not only does horrible actions, but seems to enjoy them in a sadistic way, whereas Golb seems to do things out of instinct and not just to sadistically increase his life. Uncle Gumball is the recipient of our silver medal of evil. Gumball, like Lolly and Chicle, was created by Princess Bubblegum to be a family with her. Gumball had dreams of creating a candy city, only to be foiled by Princess Bubblegum. Gumball then creates the Dum Dum juice, a potion that turns whoever is splashed by it into a candy person. And he uses it to turn Lolly and Chicle into obedient candy people, and tried to do the same to Bonibble, only to get it splashed on himself. This left him for hundreds of years as a giant living punch bowl until LSP turned everything back to its original form. Gumball immediately went back to his plans of treachery and treason, trying to overthrow Princess Bubblegum, getting any help he could manage, like reviving Fern or creating the Grubaugh to attack the Candy Kingdom. Gumball even starts a war with Princess Bubblegum to take control of the Candy Kingdom. And when Finn forces everyone into a nightmare, he seems to change his mind, until it is revealed he was planning to betray Bonnibel again and splash her with the Dum Dum juice. But his comeuppance is sweet, as he gets splashed with the Dum Dum juice again and left as a punch bowl for the rest of his life. Finally, our gold medal of evil goes to none other than the Lich. The Lich is no question the most evil character in all of Adventure Time lore, and there's no doubt about it. The Lich is the embodiment of the inevitable death of all things and takes that to heart, as his goal is to end all things. If it wasn't for Billy trapping him in the tree resin he resided in for so long, he may have done this long ago. He possesses anyone and anything, ranging from the waving snail to Princess Bubblegum, or even the decaying corpse of Billy. He killed Prismo just to go to the Citadel so that he can cause more damage by releasing multiple dangerous cosmic criminals from the prison. He was possibly even the comet that destroyed the dinosaurs and caused a massive genocide. He even exists in every timeline thanks to some shenanigans in Farm World. If it wasn't for Sweet Pea fighting against his control, the world of Ooh might not even exist in its current form. But what do you guys think? Who are the most good and evil characters in all of Adventure Time? Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring us today. Use the link in the description for a free trial for Skillshare Premium. Don't forget to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.